Hey, we're about to start the show, and you know the drill. If you've been here before and you have something important to share, please add a capital letter Q to your comment. And if you are watching live for the first time, please let us know by writing the word new, and we'll give you a nice little welcome. Enjoy the broadcast. Hello, welcome back. I should say welcome back myself. This is Coffee and Headlines, our morning get-together live here on Facebook, where we take a look at what's going on in our city, our state, and our country. We share headlines. We look at your comments, ideas, and suggestions. We learn about what you want to know about how to connect with our city, and we create connections wherever possible. As you know, I was gone for 4 days. 4 days. I haven't been gone for 4 days in a very long time. And I can't remember the last time I was gone for 4 days in the middle of the week. But the opportunity presented itself, and I'm glad I took advantage of it. And I'm glad to have come back with all kinds of great stories and ideas and content to share with you. So we are going to talk about this, that, and the other. But first, we have some news. I have some news to catch up on. We're going to talk a little bit more about the anti-noise law. We're going to unpack what happened in Ecuador and what resulted in the ending of diplomatic relationships between Ecuador and Mexico. We are going to talk about Mexico's most despicable influencer. Why is he in jail, and why is karma a bitch? Sometimes it is. And what else do we have? We have all kinds of announcements because there's a lot of things coming up. Some things of my own, but I also want to talk about an important fundraising event that is happening on Saturday. So let's get started with a black screen. We can correct that in a moment by doing this. So this has to do, obviously, with the fact that the Gabby's restaurant situation took place, and the position of the local government was, well, businesses should abide by the anti-noise law, or ley anti-ruido. So we don't know if Gabby's broke this law. We don't know if there was due process, but it doesn't hurt to understand a little bit about what the noise law or anti-noise law is about. It is worth unpacking it just a bit. You can read all about it in this article, but I will mention some key points just for your general knowledge. The anti-noise law was introduced in the state of Jalisco back in August of 2018, and it covers not only noise levels, but also the use of excessive lighting and excessive heat, wherever that's applicable, and I don't even know what the verb is in English. It also covers smells, So there you have it. And according to the anti-noise law, municipalities such as Puerto Vallarta must supervise, inspect, and sanction businesses. Restaurants and bars, for example, can be fined as much as 50,000 pesos per infraction. And if a business receives an infraction 3 times in 12 months, it loses its license to operate. Again, we don't know if Gabby's received 3 infractions in a year or not. So we don't know if they have actually lost their license to operate or not, or at least we have not seen it printed in any credible source that we follow. Now, whether our municipality is following these guidelines consistently or whether it is abiding by its obligations to do so as established by the anti-noise law, well, of course, that is a different matter altogether. In other news, Luis Munguía, who is, as you know, running for mayor of Puerto Vallarta, keeps making all sorts of promises for our city if he becomes our mayor. From maritime taxis connecting the entire bay to bicycle paths and underpasses. As in, can you imagine a major underpass at the point where the Libramiento meets Francisco Medina Asensio? Or bicycle paths in all major arteries? I mean, the irony is that as a growing city, we could benefit from all these projects. But, from making a promise to execution, it is a long stretch. And then, there are instances such as the funicular that takes you up to El Cerro, or even the Los Muertos Pier, whenever promises turn into reality, but these promises require ongoing maintenance and upkeep. Unfortunately, politicians are not all that interested in what happens after the promise has been made and fulfilled. Case in point, the aforementioned funicular and the problems that we see constantly with Los Muertos Pier, and nobody seems to want to take responsibility as to who is supposed to be looking after its upkeep. But we keep collecting these promises just in case they serve any good later on in the political electoral adventure. And now I want to talk about Mexico's most infamous influencer, Fofo Marquez. You may remember him because when was it? Maybe between 1 and 2 years ago, he made a lot of noise in our state for having stopped traffic along one of Guadalajara's major roads, only to brag about the vehicle he was driving. At the time, he was sanctioned by the Guadalajara government and he had to do some community work for a few days, nothing major. We know that Fofo Marquez inherited a huge amount of money from his father, and he is notorious for his constant bragging of luxurious, superior lifestyles, which include having sex more than 3 times a week. I mean, how lucky can you get? And he owns luxury vehicles, and he's even declared that he's untouchable because he is God. But he was caught on camera discussing with a woman, hitting her on the ground, assaulting her, and then kicking her while she was lying on the ground. As you can see, he was smiling when he was apprehended, but he is no longer smiling as since the moment he was put in jail, he has been the victim of all kinds of violent attacks himself. He's lost all his absolute power. He's now begging to be taken out of jail. All I can say is may justice be served on that one. And you also asked me to unpack a little bit of what is going on with Ecuador. So I would like to do that now and tell you a little bit about this. My goodness, I am so sorry about that. I have my microphone muted. So let me restart this again. Apologies. I think you can hear me well now. So, anyhow, you are looking at the Mexican embassy in Quito, the capital of Ecuador, where the embassy was raided on April 5th by Ecuadorian police and military forces. Mexico and numerous other countries decried the raid as a violation of the 1961 Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations and the 1954 Caracas Convention on Diplomatic Asylum. The raid was carried out to arrest the former Vice President of Ecuador, Jorge Glass, who had been sentenced for corruption and had been living in the embassy since December 17 of last year. And a few hours before the attack, he had been granted political asylum. As it turns out, the former vice president had been sentenced in December 2017 to serve 8 years in prison for two sentences, one of 6 years for illicit association and another of 8 years for bribery. In November 2022, he was released, but he was not allowed to leave the country during the remainder of his sentences. On April 3rd, President López Obrador, Mexico's president, made some comments about the government of Ecuador that the government of Ecuador did not like. So the following day, Mexican Ambassador Raquel Cerur was declared a persona non grata in Ecuador, and the country invoked the principle of non-intervention in the internal affairs of another country and requested her departure. And that is the moment in which the Mexican government granted political asylum to Glass. So if you ask me, that was a series of quick tomalas. Mexico's president, López Obrador, made an not proper, none of your business type of comment about the Ecuadorian government. The Ecuadorian government goes tomala and says, well, we don't want your ambassador here. And Mexico does a tomala back and says, oh yeah, well, we're going to grant your vice president political asylum, at which point the Ecuadorian president, Daniel Noboa, reiterated that he would not issue the necessary safe conduct for Glass to leave the country. And he probably said that because the following day, on April 5th, the National Police of Ecuador forced their way into the Mexican embassy and took Glass into custody. He was subsequently transferred to a maximum security facility, which led to Mexico announcing the severing of all diplomatic relations with Ecuador, along with plans to take Ecuador to the International Court of Justice for violations of international law. Other Latin American countries such as Argentina, Chile, Colombia, Nicaragua, and Uruguay condemned the violation of international laws, and that's where we stand today. This is definitely not completely resolved, and we don't know what the outcome is going to be, but it is what it is. And if there are any other relevant bits of news as the story develops, I will be so happy to share them here. But not today. Today, we take a look now at the weather. And our snarky, oh dear, yes. O.J. Simpson is hiding in the back of a white Ford Bronco that's trying to get into heaven. We know that he passed away yesterday, I believe. It's 24 degrees right now. Our temperature is not bad for this time of year. It's actually quite comfortable. Humidity is at 69%. And our forecast for today says that we are going to have a humid day with mostly cloudy skies throughout the day, a high of 27 and a low of 18. Then tomorrow will be a humid day, again with mostly cloudy skies, a high of 28 and a low of 19. And Sunday will be humid again with a high temperature of 27 and a low temperature of 19. So here we are, and I am so very happy to tell you that I discovered a phenomenal new place. We talked about it briefly on the impromptu live that I did a couple of days ago, and it was a great visit. So we are going to do a special event tomorrow afternoon for supporters only. We are going to have a special live show and tell called Discover CUYUTLÁN, which is where I went. And the good thing, this is going to happen tomorrow at 4 o'clock, and I'm going to show you all the photos that I took, the videos that I took, tell you why you should go, why you shouldn't go, who this place is for, who it isn't for, whether you should invest in CUYUTLÁN or not, the prices of real estate. Oh my God, they are so different than the prices here in Puerto Vallarta. And the best bit of it is that we will be joined by at least one of the two co-owners of the wonderful hotel where we stayed. We'll be joined by Scott McFarland, and he will be around to answer all kinds of questions. And that will be tomorrow at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. If you are not a member of Coffee and Headlines, membership is not that expensive. And this is my way of saying thank you and presenting special bonus content for supporters of Coffee and Headlines. So again, that happens tomorrow at 4. But before we go there, of course, this afternoon, we have our very first ever live online music appreciation presentation. We have invested in software that allows us to do this without getting into trouble with the copyright gods, or so I believe. This is going to be a fun redo of my recent Requiem retrospective presentation. It's going to be at 4 o'clock this afternoon. If you wish to attend, it is $5 US for members, and it is $15 US for non-members. It should last about an hour and a half, and the beautiful thing is that you don't have to watch it all in one sitting. If you want, you can start it and then you can continue to watch it. You'll have a whole week, 7 days to watch the whole thing. So even if you're not able to catch the live this afternoon, you should have a whole week to learn everything about Requiem, the Mass for the Departed, the way it became a musical genre, and we take a look at some famous and some infamous requiems that have been popular through time. Also, tomorrow, I want to let you know, I was very sad to learn that while I was gone, one of the bartenders at Whiskey Kitchen, Kevin Contreras, got into a serious motorcycle accident that resulted in a hospitalization. He has been in a critical state. I understand that he's getting better, but he was transferred to a private hospital, and his expenses, the medical bills need some help from the community. So tomorrow, there's going to be a benefit for him at Whiskey Kitchen. I understand this will happen tomorrow starting at 6:30 in the afternoon. There's going to be live music by Los Wendigos. So if you would like to attend this, you are more welcome to do so. There is also a GoFundMe on the invitation. So I will leave you with the link to this event in the show notes. And of course, this coming Thursday, a week from yesterday, my next music appreciation presentation, this one is in person. This is LIBERTANGO, where we're going to explore the history of tango music, talking about the gap between old tango and new tango. And we will explore the compositions of the wonderful Astor Piazzolla, who is one of the ambassadors of the Nuevo tango. And we'll take a look at how his composition, LIBERTANGO, has taken off with a life of its own and a number of many different versions. And of course, I'm already planning for May, and in May, our first music appreciation presentation will be called What's So Funny, and we will explore the humorous side of classical music, from classical music fails and funny performers and funny performances. And we will take a look at a very special composition by the French composer Camille Saint-Saëns called The Carnival of the Animals. So that should be a lot of fun. Wrong screen. That brings us to our chit-chat section. See, this is what happens when you get away from the controls for 3 days. I don't even know how to run this show anymore. No, we do. Of course we do. Let's see what we have here. I see good mornings from a number of people. I see a good afternoon from David, of course, who's in the East Coast, not the West Coast, on the East Coast. Thank you for that, Betsy. It was a lot of fun to get away, and it's so nice to be back. Let's see what else we have. We have an hola from Villa Las Flores. Hello, Kathy. It's good to see you. And let's see. A nice little wish from Carmen and Claudia of Oculto. It's great to see you watching. Thank you very much. Having worked in the legal cannabis market in the United States, odor ordinances are a real thing. Interesting. Well, I had never thought about that, but thank you very much for that bit of knowledge. Of course, there are many people out there, I imagine, that would find the smell of cannabis offensive. Director John Shepard announces the last 2 performances of Leading Ladies tonight and tomorrow night. This was a fun play, a funny play that we went to see last week at the American School. If you haven't seen it, please take the opportunity to go and laugh a little. It's going to be a lot of fun. Claudia comments, another diplomatic mess, this one, too, between governments, not the people of 2 Latin American countries. That is a very important point. The conflicts between Ecuador and Mexico are happening between the authorities. I don't think they're happening between the people of Ecuador and the people of Mexico. And, hopefully it will be resolved. Gary Green, how are you feeling after your surgery? I hope you were properly healed. I hope you are bionically looking at the future. And I think you're going to love the CUYUTLÁN broadcast tomorrow afternoon, because I know that you enjoy exploring through Mexico. And this was well, it's easy to find if you follow the Google Maps directions, but CUYUTLÁN is in the middle of nowhere. So it's not like you can just hop on a plane or hop on a cab or anything. And maybe that's what makes it so fabulous and fascinating. Tomorrow afternoon at 4, we will talk about the history of CUYUTLÁN and how it's going through this amazing renaissance now. Let's see what else. Oh, yes, on the way back, we stopped briefly to visit with Angelica at Punta Perula. We enjoyed spending some quality time with you, my friend, and having a nice lunch and a couple of beers. And thank you very much for that, Linda. We enjoyed your walking tours as always. I hope you had a good time. I've barely been able to check your comments on the pre-recorded broadcast, but I will be doing this today. And this brings us to the end of today's broadcast. And of course, as always, I'm grateful for the opportunity to go away from time to time. And I'm grateful to come back with interesting stories and interesting connections to make with you. So that's our broadcast for today. I will start prepping for this afternoon's live music appreciation presentation, and I will see you again either this afternoon or tomorrow morning. Have an amazing day.